Hey guys, welcome to another edition of On Social, and I know we're getting started late. We had some technical difficulties with our guest, but that's okay, So what we're going to do is we're going to do the show anyways. The show must go on, and what we're going to try to do is maybe schedule Lee for next week, and we'll get him on, and we'll just kind of push shows back or the following week and get him on so everything can be dialed in. But joining me as always, my co-hosts and partners in crime. We've got Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Stephen. How are you? Well, I shouldn't even. I know how you are, so it's
You know what?
crazy today.
Hey, this is how it is, right? You just kind of roll with it. Oh, we got it coming in. Here we go. All right, I think we've got Lee's audio coming in now. So Lee, we'll get to you here in a second. Also joining us, we've got Mr. Jeffrey Fitzgerald from Jeff and High Def TV. Welcome.
Hey, check mic 1, 2, 3. We've checked today, right?
We've got you, so I take it we also had Lee. Lee, you were kind of listening to the program and heard that we were going to get going to try to get this thing going, but you're joining us via audio on Skype, correct?
Okay, guys, you have me here?
We do have you here. Yes, it sounded like you tripped over a bucket. But you're here. We've got your audio.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare!
And we're live, so.
And we are live right now. So we are doing introductions and everything. So Lee has joined us. He's the one that sent in the community video last week. So Lee, let's start right now. Let's just kind of dive into this. Let's start with why the show even started late, and have you kind of explain to everybody what you're facing right now. And this is something, honestly, that everybody could face at any given moment.
Yeah, so I've been around radio, television, video production for 40 years. So, your message last week about get there early, be prepared. Wow, what a perfect example of why that has to happen. So I have Wirecast. My plan was to come and join you guys via Wirecast.
He's getting no audio. Nothing's coming in.
There you are.
There we go. Okay. So he's got audio now.
Yeah,
crazy. So you've been doing this for a long time, and one of the issues that you're having right now is that nothing is seeing your camera.
Exactly. Skype won't see it. Nothing is seeing the camera.
Nothing is seeing his camera. And it saw Wirecast virtual camera for a brief second when you, I guess Firefox updated and you had to reboot. Or you reopened Firefox, right? Was that what happened?
Yes. And what I've done now, guys, is I jumped over onto my laptop and followed the link to your to NeuralNet. And so I see myself and I see a frozen side shot of you, Stephen.
So something is not playing nice with you, but what we'll do is in a couple weeks we're going to reschedule you to come on with video.
Perfect.
So we can have you, but this is something that we wanted to keep. We wanted the show to go on, right? So we want to do that. So since you have audio only, I know you did have some questions that you wanted to ask, and hopefully people are still sticking around and wanting to kind of find this out, because this is just it. This is something you have to do, right, guys? I mean, this is something you have to do. If you can't get the person on with video, at least get them on with audio, because what do we always say? Audio is the most important thing, right? If you can hear the person, that's what matters. But we kind of wanted Lee to do a little bit of show and tell with this setup, but we'll say that for another time, Lee. So we'll definitely get you on. But you outlined some questions in that email to me. Do you want to kind of go through some of them? Do you have them available that you would put them out? And audience members, feel free to chime in with that as well.
Well, sure. As a broadcast professional, I have my list of questions ready.
There you go.
Although, first and foremost for me is, has anybody figured out a way to monitor audio live on the stream? It drives me crazy. As a broadcaster, I'm so used to having live audio in my ear, so I know what's going on. I see, Marty, you're shaking your head. You appreciate that. Jeff, I know you do it. Is there any way you can do that? Find a solution so that I know exactly what's on the stream?
Are you saying you're looking for program out audio that before it goes out to the internet, or are you talking about before it gets into Wirecast?
I would like to, what I'd love is program out audio through Wirecast. So when I monitor the Wirecast output, it's always a second or two delayed from live. And, that's the mix minus issue that you just can't get around. Anybody have a solution for that?
Well, it's one of these things where, I mean, obviously it was in Wirecast under the VU meters on the program side. You've got the ability to turn the sound on or off. You can hear it, as it's going out, that kind of thing. But it's one of these situations where I would envision it, if you really wanted something that precise, it would be where maybe the right answer is to have an encoder separate from all the equipment that you're using to send that stream or send that signal out with. That way you're hearing what's coming out as the final on your end, but it's still not before it's being encoded, because it's that encoding process that's actually creating that delay in that stream, crunching all that video down to make it, viewable over the internet. And so that's where that challenge comes from. And so you being a broadcaster, I know me, Marty, I know you know this as well. I know Steve, you've done this. It's really kind of a new world when you don't have that confidence in your ear, like you're hearing yourself as you go out. You're basically a block or two away from that. You're like stopping before you really know. It's what you have in the software, but you're trusting that everything sounds that way as it goes out. And that's a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, like, I listen to myself. I have my audio piping back into my headset when I'm doing a show, and that's kind of how I make sure everything's blended, with my co-hosts and my guests. But one of the challenges that we ended up having was I could see meters running on my mixing board, but then there's people in the chat room going, "Hey, there's no audio out here. What are we gonna do?" Like, I don't know it. So what I've done is I purchased from American Audio, and I'll see if I can pull up a link to show you guys, a DB display. It's rack mountable, but what I did, instead of rack mounting it, I put it right above my preview program TV monitor that's right next to the camera. So basically I see light meters going back and forth when the audio is going to the internet. If I see meters here in my interface and Wirecast, if I see them going, but they're not going on that, I know the internet's not getting audio. And so that was one way that I've kind of combated that issue, because sometimes, like, you're controlling things, like you said, you've got the X keys or something, you hit the mute button, but you're still getting audio in the interface, but the audience is not getting the audio. What do you do? You're 10 minutes in your program and you have zero audio. So what do you do? So I think I spent like $20 for it. And you can set the dB meter. So I have it set to 0 dB, even though it goes into the red. 0 dB is actually red on this. So what I basically did was just made it so it matched my mixer in that way. So I know everything was set as best as I could, calibrated, if you will.
Yeah, so I get it. So something is going out, but you're not really sure what that is the challenge here until after the delay. If you have somebody monitoring audio for you,
Right.
They can tell you've got, the video B-roll that you're running, the audio is on when it shouldn't be, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I can tell you what I do. And normally I'm not doing any solo shows, so if I did a solo show, it might be different. But I'll test everything ahead of time and make sure my signal path is good. And then as far as my audio goes, I do have a meter in Wirecast that I'm looking at here. I can tell, okay, my audio is working. So I rely on that. I don't route my audio through my headset ever. And normally I'm on with other people. So in this particular setup is a little different because I'm a guest on a show. I'm not running the show. So going through the browser, going through neural net. And my concern is making sure am I sending audio through. And then obviously Steven's hearing that, so I have confidence there. And as far as the confidence monitor on the encoded stream, because of the delay, I would think, the best thing to do there is have people that you can rely on that may be watching the show that can let you know. And we're very fortunate, the community we have, people are very quick to let us know if we're not. We've had that before, audio is not going through, to let us know. But yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think it's also depending on what you want. I know, Stephen, you saying you route your audio through, and for me, I would do it. I just don't. I think I would be thrown off. But again, and it also depending on the show that you're on. Like for this setup for me is pretty simple because
Yeah.
I'm not doing a lot here. Really, to be perfectly frank, Stephen's really doing everything. But if I'm running a show, lots of times I don't really do a show. I used to do a show, and I used to do it with Mark, and I don't route the audio through, and I just make sure everything works ahead of time. If I'm doing a client show, I'm usually a producer in the background, so I'm monitoring everything. I don't have to worry about my audio going out. I just have to worry about the talk back. So it's a little different situation. So I just described 3 different situations, and each one of them I would set up differently.
And here's that
And
here's that meter. Not to cut you off. There's
there you
that
go.
there's that meter that I have. That's you can, like I said, you can rack mount it. What I used to do, and I believe it's like 79 on Amazon. Here, I'll pull it up so y'all can see it. $79.99. I bought this back in 2013, so that's how long I've had it. So what I basically did for the longest time, anybody that watched previous shows, I used to have it sitting behind me because that was my confidence monitor, because I'm looking at it and I'm seeing it flashing behind me and I'm going, okay, I've got audio. But Marty, I mean, you're 100% right. We rely on the chat room when we go pre-show to say, hey, Jeff, your audio is not right, or Steven, you're too hot, turn it, pull it down. That's kind of what we really depend on them for.
Gotcha.
You need that program out audio if you really want confidence, right? Because it's after all that signal has been processed, mixed, and you've got your music and you've got your effects and your B-roll, whatever you might have in there with audio or video. You want to be able to take one last look at it before it goes down the line. But once it gets into that encoding phase, there's going to be a delay with it. And so that's one of those situations where, depending on how important it is to you, I mean, you could probably get enterprise hardware that has an audio jack out, a video jack out, that kind of thing to have confidence. But again, it just depends on what level of comfort you are, trusting that what's coming out of vMix or Wirecast or any of these platforms really is identical to what you think you're hearing in your ears that goes out.
And I would also add to that, that especially if you're a one-man show, if you're producing and hosting and trying to do everything yourself, you're gonna have to make some choices on compromises, obviously. And that's where, again, testing. We all know how important testing is ahead of time. And that's where really is critical, because if you can work out your workflow and really test the signal flow and actually do test broadcasts, and then get everything dialed in. I know Steve and I talk about it all, like getting it dialed in. And then once you get it dialed in, don't touch it. You should, like on your mixer and your audio, it should stay the same, especially if you're a host. Like the way I have my mic, I have this mic set up exactly the same way. I move it out of the way when I'm not using it, but I have it. I know the distance, I know the angle. I have it set up exactly. I don't touch my settings on my interface. I've tested with Steven, so I got that dialed in. And being a host and having the same setup, you can do that. That's what I would recommend. And then, you just got to make choices as far as what you monitor. And in fact, at the highest levels, as working in professional media, you have you don't do this by yourself. You have a whole team of people, a whole control room, and everyone has one job. And one person's job may be to monitor the outgoing feed, and you have audio mixer, all that stuff. But as a one-man band, you don't have that. So you make choices, So yeah, it's always tough. And I think Stephen brings up a really good solution. A visual representation of your audio is a great. I mean, the problem that we had is your macro was misbehaving and hitting the button, and then that was a great solution, because you need to know, is it going out or not going out. You knew the quality was good. If it was going, you knew the quality was dialed in, but it was a matter of switch on or switch off, and that was a great solution right there.
Right.
And being a one-man band, that did the trick.
Another question I have, my situation is a little bit unusual in that I am broadcasting live on a radio station and simulcasting out to Facebook. So I'm using Zoom to bring the radio station audio into my system. and then they are picking up my audio from Zoom and broadcasting that. What I'm noticing is I think Facebook is running some audio compression or doing something, because if you watch any of my the recordings of my episodes on demand, you'll see it's not uncommon for the radio host to come in very strong, and then my audio is very faint and then gradually moves up. It's not like that on the radio, but it's only like that on Facebook. I don't know if there's a fix around that one or not. That's kind of a bizarre one-off kind of problem, I understand, but don't know. You
Well,
get any thoughts on that
Lee,
one?
you know what I'm thinking is I'm wondering if the audio that you're getting out of the radio station is their program out, which means it's got the oral exciter and the effects on it. It's got all of the compression, all of the good FM sound to it, and that's what you're hearing. But you're hearing your direct audio coming from your location to them, but it's at the point where you're not hearing that process through their system yet, because obviously they're not sending you your audio back to you, or otherwise that would create feedback and an echo. So you may not be hearing it, like you said, the way it's eventually going to sound after it goes through their process and their signal processors. That sounds like what might be going on.
So Lee, you're sending your audio that is going on the air through Zoom?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And
it's been.
Oh, go ahead.
It's been working just fine. I was really sweating that one, but we've done this now since, I don't know, springtime, and every week I've not had a single issue where they're unable to hear me or we've had breakup or any kind of a problem like that.
Wow. I'm just surprised because Zoom is a conference. I mean, I know a lot of people are in love with Zoom for podcasts, but it's got a lot of compression and echo cancellation and all. It's compressed and all that stuff. I'm and if you use the right microphone, right tech, obviously you're a professional and you're getting the most out of it. I'm just surprised that it's good enough for the radio, because there are other solutions out there that'll use different codecs, especially for audio, that you can send audio pretty cleanly over the internet and get almost studio quality sound. So I'm just surprised to hear Zoom, but yeah, I mean, if it works, it works,
Yeah, they seem to be okay with it.
Yeah, a lot of it is bandwidth too. If you've got decent bandwidth, Skype and Zoom and other apps like that can easily throw a nice. I mean, today you sound pretty good, and so it's the same thing. It just depends if you've got enough bandwidth and you've got a good microphone. And again, it's almost like in some ways when you do the fundamentals right, it gives you a big advantage anywhere, right? So, I'm sure that's helping that along. But I mean, I can see where Zoom could work.
Here's another question, guys. When I so I'm running Zoom on the same PC that I'm running Wirecast on, and I think, Jeff, you and I had talked about NDI and bringing that in through a separate computer, and I've just not successfully achieved that yet. But I'd also like to record these episodes locally, because right now the only recording is out there on Facebook at 720 and, yada, yada. And if I try to record that on my Wirecast machine, I'm, maxing the processor. So I do have an external recorder device, but again, I haven't been able to get a good clean signal out of Wirecast into that one. Are we too deep in the weeds? Is this more than most people are going to care about?
You're fine. Go ahead.
No,
you're good.
Okay. So that, I think that's a situation that other guys might face.
Yeah, I'll take a shot at this. Lee, what you need is to look at the a device like the Blackmagic Mini monitor, where you have the ability to send an HDMI out. But the difference between doing that and just a regular HDMI plug on your computer is that this device now gets registered as a device that's a destination. So in Wirecast, you can go to output and you can send your full frame program output to that HDMI port, and now you can plug that into any HDMI monitor and have the ability to record it if you're going through an Atomos or however you want to record it, whether it's SDI or HDMI. That would give you the ability to record it if you didn't want to do it in Wirecast, because it makes perfect sense. Every time you use one of the great features in any of these apps, it does add processing power, and you're going to pay for it in the long run if you're trying to do everything on one machine.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a good idea.
And I second what Jeff was saying there, and I do something similar. I use Wirecast. One of the use cases I have for Wirecast, I use it in live event settings where if I'm one of the things I do is we work influencer parties, and I do audio visual for these parties, and we provide Instagram feeds, live feeds, signage, and all that stuff. And I use Wirecast to be able to do that, to manage the playlist and be able to play things out, maybe even camera source or whatever. And Wirecast, I can send that HDMI feed out to a whole set of monitors around the venue, and it works fantastic. And then I can still have my control panel, on my main screen, know what Wirecast is doing, control it. And so I would think that, like Jeff was saying, that HDMI feed out, you can put it input it into a recording situation and get a nice clean feed. I would think a nice clean recording.
So one of the things that I've used over the years for SDI or HDMI has been from a company called Atomos, and they make the Ninja, and this is the latest version. Now I have the Ninja 2, I think. So mine's HDMI SDI, but basically it's a touchscreen interface. As you can see, a lot of people that do professional video and photography use it with their DSLRs, but you can actually take a straight SDI signal or an HDMI signal, go into one of these Ninjas. There's a Shogun. They have a Shogun version. And basically, you slide a hard drive into it, and it records right to the hard drive in full ProRes video. So they go from anywhere from $250 all the way up to $500, depending on what you want. But there's, like I said, there's different versions here. Like here's the Shinobi SDI. So you can get different ones that, I'm not familiar with their products as of recently because, like I said, I have one of the older Ninjas. Mine's just a hard drive that slides in. So you'll have to look at their website and see which ones are going to do what you can. But it's great because it takes the embedded audio from your SDI or your HDMI feed with the video, and it puts it in there, so you don't have to worry about sync issues, and you can do real-time editing on it. So you can lop off the beginning, lop off the end, and have it right there, and then just throw through like Handbrake or something and compress it down. But that's what I use, is like a backup recorder in the studio. I also have a Wirecast machine that does a backup recording on top of my Wirecast encoding machine, so I get a little crazy with it. But this is great. Like when I go out in the field, I have it as a backup recorder to my camcorder, so I can use it in the studio or outside the studio.
I'll probe that. And then one last issue. I have been, I suppose, lazy in that when I'm creating one of my broadcasts, I just kind of grab the last episode and replace graphics and save it with a new name. And so I have found that over time, for some reason, I don't know if it's a memory leak or what's going on, but even with no stream, I'll see a 40 to 50% CPU utilization rate. And Wirecast's answer was to go in and reset preferences. Is there a way to create a template that is not going to have that memory hog kind of issue going forward?
So I guess they're going to lean on me for this one.
Of course.
They're like, okay, we're going to let Steve go with this one.
You're the guy
Of
wearing
course,
a
sitting there,
Telestream
like,
shirt.
Yeah. So is there a way to go into an existing file, Wirecast file, and remove the problematic files? Is basically what you're asking, right? To get rid of that high memory usage of whatever is in there, right? Am I understanding that right?
Actually, what I would like to do is create just a template that I can go, that's got all my shots and everything in, and then I just drop in new graphics every week without having that accumulated issue.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense now. So what I usually tell customers, and I usually tell people, anybody using Wirecast or any product for that matter, if you create a session or a template or a WCST file in Wirecast, get it set up exactly the way you want it before you go live. Like get it with all your shots with the graphics. What I tell them to do is make a backup of that file just by copying it and changing the name of that file by one letter or one number. So take, for instance, this show is on social. So when you open up Wirecast, my template would be on social. When I make a copy of it, I'll just right click on it, copy, paste it, or just duplicate. Then I'll change it to on social 1 with the number 1. Then I'll make another copy of it and call it on social 2. And then I'll take that and put it on a thumb drive. Reason being is sometimes when you add assets to your document, you can corrupt it if they're not compatible or if you didn't know that they weren't compatible. but you got to go live. Like you have 2 minutes till showtime, and you can't afford to be down. So by changing the number or putting a number on it, it basically tells Wirecast it's a completely different file, even though it's not a completely different file. It's the same thing that you want. It just thinks it is. So any corruption or memory is gone, basically. So you can pull it in and be right back up and running in a matter of seconds. That's what I would suggest to do. And then also, if you're adding and taking away assets week in and week out, I would say every month make a new duplicate from your original. Like don't alter one of those. Like if you have 1, 2, and 3, which is usually what I do. The third one's usually on a thumb drive. Don't alter that one. Alter the one that's on your desktop, which would be labeled number 1. After a month, it's still gonna get, because you've been adding things and taking away. Put a new file in there and start fresh. Even though it's the same template, you're not going to be out time. You're just going to have to every month do that. And honestly, I'm still using the same templates that I've used 4 or 5 years ago by doing this method. And I've not had one where it's like, oh, well, the document's corrupted or anything like that, or you get that sudden spike. So I hope that was easy enough to follow.
I got it. Yeah, you couldn't see me nodding, but I was right along with you.
Lee, I have a question. Are you from week to week, are the graphics growing that you're trying to save within the file, or is it literally one full screen or one logo, one over the shoulder, and then you delete those 3, save it, and the next week you do the same thing, but then remove it at the end, or is it actually a growing document?
No, Jeff, it's usually I delete assets and then install new assets of approximately the same weight, so to speak. So, and they're usually, I've gotten pretty simple. I use video pretty sparingly, and I'm always careful to size it down to the 720 because I know that's what my canvas size is going to be. So I'm aware of trying to keep that as lightweight as I can.
That's a great point. That if you're building full HD graphics, but you're streaming in 720, and you scale it down, and Wirecast has got a great set of tools to let you be able to manipulate the image. That does add the processing power, and you're absolutely right about that. So building them in their native format is going to be a big plus no matter what you're doing.
And I would say this to any Wirecast user that's watching this, and I know we always tout that this is not a Wirecast troubleshooting show, but when we invite members of the community on, we want to give them that option to ask different questions about their setup. Lee's foundation of his setup is Wirecast. So if people are wondering in their chat room and they're saying, well, hey, you're using Wirecast, you're saying you're not a Wirecast show. Well, yeah, because these are tips on Wirecast. And one of the things that I would say is also with Wirecast, Lee, and check in, and anybody else watching, make sure that you're checking that you're using GPU acceleration with any of your encodings. If you're doing any kind of recording, if you have an NVENC capable GPU like from NVIDIA, or if you have, let's say, an Intel QuickSync GPU, and you can use that for your recording or your streaming, that is going to take a load of CPU processing power off your system to allow you to do other things besides just stream. If you have a questionable CPU or you've got a questionable computer, but it has a powerful GPU and it falls in one of those categories, you just extended the life of that machine to get better quality out of it. So I would also check into that as well.
Yeah, and in fact, I do have an NVIDIA graphics card that I'm coding all that stuff with. So I agree with you completely. That makes a huge difference when you take that out of the chain, that your processor really breaks a sweat. And one last point I wanted to make, guys, totally off Wirecast and just more to the creative side of streaming. And that is, I think I want to get the message out there to people who haven't been around broadcasting and video production as long as all of us have. Just get started. It's so terrifying to press record or press that green rainbow button to start your stream in Wirecast. But by golly, get out there and do it. The people who are going to be haters are a high percentage of them are going to be people who are envious or jealous that you've taken the step they have yet to take.
That's very wise.
Yeah, a lot of times, and Lee, you obviously know this. I mean, a lot of times people are more fearful and jealous of your courage than anything else, because today is a great example. in another world, how any one of us would be like, you know what, this show's not worth doing today. Way too many problems. Let's just forget it. And yeah, there's some things here we've got to work out, but it's still a great conversation, and you're still showing great courage and hitting play, hitting record or hitting stream, and making it happen. And that's something that not everybody can do. And if you can do that, hey, kudos for you. Keep doing it, and they will get better. They'll always get better because you're doing it more.
I think.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and
Marty. No, go ahead.
oh yeah, I like to add also, and Lee, that's great advice to folks. And the other thing is, what's great about that, and what's great about just plowing ahead, is when you're starting out and you have no presence, your first few shows probably, this many people are going to watch, zero, and it's going to take a while to ramp up, but that's a good thing, really, because it gives you a chance to get your feet wet, work out the bugs, and as you grow an audience, you'll get better. And it kind of goes hand in hand. And so that kind of, it may, hopefully that takes a little bit of the nervousness away, that look, and also encourages you to work hard to build an audience and build a community. But yeah, in the beginning, nobody's watching, just do your thing, just get better, do one thing every day, watch your stuff back, improve one step at a time, and before you know it, you look back and time goes by very fast. And if you work
Yeah.
hard, you'd be surprised the progress you make over time. And we all know that, but yeah, that's great advice for folks watching.
Because the easiest thing to do, even for today, was just to pack it in and say, you know what, we're gonna reschedule the show. But you know what, the three of us look at it as a challenge. Like, okay, let's say Lee didn't get on, right? We were playing the intro, and I said, all right, guys, I got a little idea. Follow my lead and let's roll. That was the instructions I gave them when we were doing, and they're trusting me that I'm going to bring something up relevant that they can talk about, that I'm not just going to come out of left field. But again, it helps. I think it gives you a better repertoire, I think, with your audience, if you're willing to power through some of these things, so that they can see you can stand the widths of time.
Yeah, Steve, you bring up a great point too. Part of that is collaboration. If you can do a show in tandem with somebody else, that takes a lot of the heat off. It lets you share some of that load, and it's a great mutual learning experience for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think with folks out there, when you get going here, and I apologize for the extra noises. I mean, Skype just has a mind of its own. It'll just start giving you a bunch of noises and disconnections and things.
I thought that was your arcade, Steve.
Oh no, it's not the arcade yet. It's not Friday yet. No. But no, seriously, when your audience will appreciate. Yeah, they'll see the great shows that you produce, but to be able to go live, even when you had a scheduled show planned, and be able to talk about something that they can gain something from, you just got yourself some credit. And like Marty said in the beginning, nobody knows you anyway, so that's just another feather in your cap where people can be able to, come on. You're a loyal audience, and that's why we said, if you're willing to stick around, we'll alter the time. We're going to go live. We'll give you the half hour that we promised, and you get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of sometimes things that happen. So with that said, guys, I really appreciate everybody sticking around, and Jeff, we'll start with you. I mean, I really appreciate it, and you guys can go check out Jeff in highdef.tv. And you just did a big 9/11 tribute. So, folks, if they're following you on Facebook, you can go check that out. Jeff is very into serving the community with, I guess I don't want to call it, you work for the fire company with media, but
no,
you're
actually,
kind of doing stuff.
One of my brands is what I wear a lot is Fire Media. I do strategic marketing and volunteer recruitment for fire rescue stations across the country. And I'm very passionate about it. I've been in the volunteer world for 20 years, and I am not an operational firefighter. Everybody thinks that you fight fires or you whatever. I've been a president for 2 years. I've helped purchase an ambulance for the community. I've helped with fundraising, do marketing, do media. And all of us in this circle, especially if you're watching and you're doing social media, what a great place to be is to serve in your local fire rescue department to help tell their story to the world, because that's where your next generation of help is going to come from. And so, yeah, I'm really passionate about it. And I had a wonderful opportunity, and it was an honor to lead our 9/11 Remembrance ceremony here in my local town through our fire department.
Oh, you were putting out fires today. We all were putting out fires today. So you're definitely a firefighter in my book.
Whole different fire department.
Also, want to thank Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. You guys can check him out. Follow him on all the places. Just look up Marty McPadden. Again, thank you for bearing with us and flexing your schedule for this.
Always a pleasure, Stephen. Always great to be with you guys.
I think he looks forward to seeing me sweat sometimes when we get into some of these
Roll with the
instances.
punches.
And last but not least, we do want to thank Lee for bearing with us here and being able to go through the rigorous troubleshooting that we did just to try to get him video. We wanted you to see his pretty face and get on, and you got his illustrious voice. So we'll have to have you back on, Lee, in the future and get you on video so people can see the face with the voice, right?
Well, I appreciate that.
Nice.
Thanks, guys, for the opportunity. And even though I have been doing this for a little while and been around video and TV for a while, I learned so much watching you three each week. I really respect what you're doing for our community here.
Well, we have to give the props to Telestream, honestly, because they're the ones that are allowing us to do this. And you guys said, I work for the company, but it's still something that they believe in what we're doing. They believe in helping the community with this project, and we're very fortunate to be able to do this. So, we're glad that it's of service, and we hope everybody else is getting something from it too. So we appreciate that. We really do. So, guys, what an interesting episode. Episode number 17 is going to go down in the books. It could have been worse. We could have been doing this on Friday. I think tomorrow's the 13th of all things. And I think my wife told me it's a full moon. So, I don't know. Next week, we have episode number 18. Bryce Seigel, he is the technical product manager at Telestream, is going to join us and talk about Wirecast 13. Apparently, the coders have been working. There's going to be some really cool new add-ons to Wirecast that are coming, as well as some fixes and things. So we're going to get to geek out with Bryce next week here on social. So make sure you guys show up for that. Maybe the week after that, we can get Lee fine-tuned in and get him back on here and to bring up some other discussions. But guys, get those videos. Send them in. Right, Lee? Tell them, send the videos in. We want to see it.
I think you all should. I'd love to see what all you guys are doing. Please do.
This is something, you heard it from the man. Listen, if you don't want to get on camera, you don't want to come on, that's fine. But send in your videos. We'd love to see your setup. Even if you're not using Wirecast, send it in. We'd love to see it. We want to see how you're changing the world through social media, through live video, and being on social. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks again. Have fun.